Hey everyone, how you going? And welcome to our show of League of Bets. This week we're joined by four of us again. So, how's everyone going? Welcome to the show, Seagull. What have you been up to this week?
Well, this week, I mean, it's always the same story, isn't it? Just battling the babies in everyday life. They've been like perpetually sick since I started daycare like 2 months ago, so hopefully that's coming to an end soon.
Oh
Um,
no.
but still liking the parenting journey, and now it's coming into summer, getting outside with them a bit more and running around on ovals and that kind of thing. Done a bit of potential house shopping, which may not happen for a year or so, but we're thinking we need to upsize in the not so distant future. So,
I saw a good Snapchat from you the other day of them working the brooms out in the
yeah,
yard. So
yeah, they're apparently at the age where you want to like help give them like adult jobs and they can use their imagination. So pretend to be like firefighters or whatever, and you just give them lots of props. But it's good fun.
sounds like fun.
Um, in my league week, I had a bit of an emotional roller coaster on one of the nights this week. So as I said in the last podcast, I hit Masters in TFT, and then I suddenly was dealt the stress of decaying LP every day
Oh
until I like
no.
play more games. So what I didn't realize is that I could sit at zero LP and never decay. But I played a game at zero LP, lost, demoted to diamond, and then played one more and I won, and I'm back into Masters. So
Easy
yeah.
claps.
Amazing.
Yeah, how about yourself, Ryan? I think you got some TFT related news, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, I thought I would try hard for a day or two and got masters, so pretty easy. Don't know what
Just
you're
for a
worried
day
about.
or two, that's all it took.
Just
No, I
easy.
think
No
it took me
worries.
about 15 games to get to masters. So
High MMR from the last split.
just all top fours, and it's easy. But unfortunately, we've been put back into quarantine. Not full
Oh,
quarantine at
no.
the moment, just like weekend quarantine.
So you can't even
So
go to your movie that you thought you could go to last week.
nah,
Oh,
not anymore. I don't think. But
Oh,
yeah, it's because the city I'm living is on the border to Peru, and they're like not doing so great. So people that have to like travel for work kind of come here, and yeah, it's just like been a lot of cases. And then Chile's doing pretty well with like containing it, so they're just like, all right, let's go back into quarantine. And unlike Australia, no one really complains. They just do it because they know it's the best for the country.
that's good.
Rather
yep.
than
Nice.
making strikes and whatever stuff's happening in Australia. I heard the borders are closed again. How's that
Yeah.
going? My family is trying to get back to Adelaide from Queensland, and they have to go through Darwin to get back without having to quarantine, which also kind of shows how silly the system is
Yeah,
because
if you just do
my
a longer trip,
parents,
you don't have to
my parents are
quarantine.
like
Yeah.
getting past the system, even though it's like, whatever. I don't know. It seems ridiculous, but Australia, hey.
Yeah, look, I mean, I think majority of the people seem to be doing the right thing, but it is the loud minority that you hear about, unfortunately, that, the
Yeah.
anti-mask protests and stuff like that
But my
undoubtedly people
parents,
see
they're
them.
just like, they're just, instead of not going because there's COVID and the government said to not go, they're just going to go the other way.
I mean,
So
South Australia is a good place to be right now. We've got no
it's true.
community cases or anything like that. So,
And
Yeah.
their official residence is there, so it makes sense. So
Yeah.
yeah.
What about you, Stella? How's your week been?
Yeah, well, a little bit different, I guess, to Ryan's week. I have my bachelorette party coming up this weekend, so you might notice I'm a little bit darker than I normally am, or at least you saw me last week. I just got my tan tonight, so I'm looking very dark at the moment. I promised Jared it doesn't look like this after I shower, so fingers crossed. I asked them to give me the lightest tan possible, so not looking like that at the moment, but yeah, hopefully it only develops a little bit overnight and I can wash it off
I
in the
think
morning.
you're like overselling it. It really doesn't look like too extreme. Like it looks fine. Yeah.
I'm telling you, the camera is making it look good, but
Okay.
Yeah.
it's quite dark.
Yeah. No, my teeth aren't normally this white.
Maybe it's just maybe it's just such a big difference in color that makes it
Yeah,
look like that.
maybe. Yeah, maybe it looks like I'm just like so bronzed and normal. Yeah. Other than that, just pretty chill. I'm on leave at the moment this week, so just having a really good time.
Finally
Nice.
a break.
What are you doing with your
Yeah.
leave?
Well, the intention is to do Sweet FA, and I haven't been able to achieve that. I've just been keeping myself busy doing
Solo
life
queue
admin
grind?
stuff. So, well, I did actually. I was planning on getting back onto the TFT train.
Do it.
Yeah. So, but yeah, like obviously, as I said before, I haven't actually been relaxing at all yet. So that's my plan for next week is to, actually get onto the computer that I own and never use, and play TFT.
Well,
Nice.
Romina said that since next week they have the Women in Esports podcast, little shameless plug there, that she would join me in some solo queue games and learn how to play League of Legends. So
Let's
Oh my
go.
gosh, I
already been-
need
yeah.
I need
God.
like a beginner friend because I'm just
Just-
horrendous.
Just make sure she disables all chat. Actually, it's going to be her team that flames her if she's learning the game, but make sure she knows it's not because she's female. She's getting flamed when learning. Like,
Nothing
real-
could be more embarrassing than when I was first playing League, and I don't know what was up with my client, but it was like putting like it had my mic on, and so I was saying to Jared like, what am I doing, what's happening, like it's telling me to choose a champion, what am I doing? And someone typed in the chat being like, your mic's on. It was just so obvious
shit.
that I had no idea what the fuck I was doing. There's nothing can be worse than that.
And then in all chat, someone just writes, "It's okay, she's probably hot."
Well,
Friend
that's
request,
also
friend
not
request,
true.
friend
but-
request.
Yeah, it depends if your name was like Stella or if it was Sick Dog.
No, unfortunately, at that time, I didn't quite have the name Sick Dog, so I was a little
Nice.
lamer than that.
All right, I think we want to move on to our next segment. So, Ryan, do you want to deliver us the news story of the week?
Beto Faker may be in trouble here. Deathmark tries to clean it up for Ryu. Oh, look at the cleanse. Look at the
News?
Yeah, so the news, we have unfortunate news. We already knew that VCS, the two qualified seeds there, aren't making it to Iceland due to COVID and quarantine reasons. But we weren't really sure what was going to happen to those two spots there. But it's been confirmed just the last few days that Rogue, instead of going into the play-in stage to qualify for a group spot, they're just automatically qualified for a group spot. So
Oh, nice.
it's kind of a big deal. Jared, do you know why Rogue got that automatic qualifying position?
You've put me on the spot here, and I'm going to just have to have an estimated guess, but it's probably because of LEC's position as a region at previous international tournaments, and they'd be the logical, because they only get 3 seeds anyway. The logical reason would just be to chuck them in straight into groups, similar to how China and Korea have 3 teams straight through to groups.
Yeah, they're probably a bit higher ranked than the LCS teams. Just in
Definitely.
general performance in the last competitions, but
It's a bit of a shame because I feel like Vietnam going to Iceland would have been a bit of like a cool runnings narrative, like, you know, arrive at the airport like dressed in t-shirts, not knowing what's going on. I'm sure they've traveled internationally before, but it's a bit of a
made for
fish
good
out of water
content.
situation.
Not for a
Yeah.
while though. They've unfortunately missed Worlds last year and MSI,
True.
and so they haven't been to, I think, the last 3 or 4 tournaments, which has been pretty upsetting for that region.
Yeah.
I know there's a lot of Vietnamese people in our community, so they've been pretty disappointed not being able to see them there. But
They're always good competitive teams to watch as
Yeah.
well.
yeah,
well, they have the 2 seeds, right? So that means they're
Well, yeah.
like equivalent to the Japanese region. So it's not like they're just like some wild card. They have a secured place in groups. So
Well, they get a team straight through to groups, so they're obviously doing something right.
yeah, but bit
Speaking of like
unfortunate.
groups and play-in formats, should we, like, Riot released earlier today the the official format and who's going to be in each pool. So should we maybe quickly run through that?
Yeah, let's do it.
Cool. So we've got in the play-in stage, we're going to have 10 teams will be starting there. We've got 2 pools. Pool A consists of the top teams from the region, so the 3rd or the 4th seeds from LCK, China, America, and I think it was, where's Beyond Gaming from? I think they're the one taking that last seed up.
Yeah, the Japanese, Southeast Asian, PCS.
So they're going to be in the pool A, which means that they'll only be able to face off against one other person in pool A in the first round of play-ins. In the rest of the group will be the teams from the rest of the minor regions like Oceania, Latin America, Japan, LCL, stuff like... Not LCL. No, yes, LCL. Unicorns of Love will be in the play-ins. But it should be a fun little tournament to sort of see how good the teams like LNG, Harnwell Life Esports, Cloud9, and Beyond Gaming really are. I don't see too many of those other teams making too much of a dent, but we'll talk about, I guess, those chances that each of those minor teams have later on in our segment. After that, so we'll get 4 teams that'll go through to the group stage, and that's where it really gets pretty bloody scary for them. So they'll be split into 3 pools. Pool A has the top teams. We've got EDG, Dumb One Gaming, and Mad. There's some scary names for you. Pool B consists of... and PSG. So yeah, another scary name. I think they only lost one series this whole year.
Yeah.
So outside of MSI, very scary team. And then Pool B, we've got the also very scary contenders of FPX. They're probably the number 1 going into the tournament, chucking in Pool B. So yikes if you get up against them. Gen G after that, Fnatic, and then 100 Thieves. And then it drops off hugely in skill because our reigning MSI champs are in Pool 3 of RNG. We've got Faker making his return to Worlds with T1 in Pool C. Rogue, who are with one of the best performing LEC sides all year. They just have been a bit of a letdown in finals. So looking for a bit of a step up from them. But they're another scary bloody team. And Team Liquid. I mean, Team Liquid has been also one of the most consistent LCS squads all year. So pretty scary pools once we get over to groups. And yeah, because of the Vietnamese team dropping out, the format has changed very slightly. It's too much to sort of go through that, but essentially 4 teams go through from play-ins to groups, and then we get a final 8 out of the 16 teams that start off in groups, and that's where best of 5 quarterfinals and the really insane action begins.
I'm just trying to look at these pools and work out what the worst group of death would be. If you had to pick it from every region. I mean, something like, I don't know, FPX, DK, Rogue. I don't know.
Yeah. It's pretty bad when you're thinking that Rogue and TL are have no chance to get out of the group stage.
Imagine if you're because theoretically the group of death, because you can't have the same teams from the same regions in the groups together. So we'd be looking at the top seeds of MAD and PSG being probably the ones that are going to cop the rough end of that. So MAD or PSG are going to have to, especially the LPL sides, who are all 3 of them are just incredible. We've got FPX and RNG that you're going to definitely have in your group. I mean, that's pretty nuts.
Yeah,
Play for second.
Who would you prefer to choose against RNG and EDG?
Who's the most, Jared being our LPL fan, who do you think is the least consistent team out of those? One of them have potential for upsets?
Got split 2, I guess, going into Worlds. Probably RNG has the biggest potential for upsets, but I don't know. They look shaky in one finals game, and because they had a really poor start to the split after the MSI hangover, I think we've talked about it in our previous podcasts. They got off to a rough start and we didn't see much of them in finals at all. They only really lost 1 series, and then won 1 series and made it to Worlds. So we barely saw them
They're obviously all good teams, I suppose, making it to
Yeah,
Worlds,
yeah.
but tough one.
It sure is.
It's still going to
We'll
be
see.
exciting though. I can't wait. Like it's when you see groups that are like this close and this tight, and you're talking about like which one's actually the worst one, you know, which is the pool of death, you know, that's when you know you're going to get like really, really exciting Worlds play. So it's just making me like super hyped for it.
Yeah, and I know Stella and I were talking about it, like Stella being a bit more of a casual fan that gets a lot of the news from observing. She was saying like, oh my God, like we've got Darm 1 and EDG and Mad and like Fakers back at Worlds. We've got like 100 Thieves are popping off with like Oceanic. It's like going to be a really exciting Worlds.
And then also with this like format, if you get a team like Fnatic up against RNG, Fnatic have nothing to lose, and we've already seen how Fnatic can perform against like, you know, the top LEC teams when they've got nothing to lose. And on the other hand, maybe you have the Chinese and Korean teams that are just like, oh, this is a free win, like Fnatic suck. And when it's just a 1 or 2 game series, that means anything can happen. So
yeah,
teams taking it too easy.
I honestly think that the meta's in a position where some of those teams that aren't like, unfortunately, we're never going to see like a Peace or like Unicorns of Love come in and win Worlds. They just don't have the quality there. But a team like Fnatic, like they're maybe 5% away instead of like 20% away from the top. And so the right meta for them going into Worlds, and we've seen the patch, it's bloody huge. Like we're going into Worlds with such a different meta. It could suit anyone. And until we see a bit more solo queue, like this could really be anyone's game.
Yeah, well, interesting news. If you're onto some of the top streamers, there's already all the pros are starting to play in US solo queue. I don't think the Chinese or Korean teams have shown up yet, but there's definitely some of the minor regions already playing games in solo queue. I know LCS is already there. Blabber and Perks are on the solo queue grind in the US, so we're starting to see a few of those teams, how they're going.
Yeah, it'll be really fun to keep a bit of an eye on that, and then we'll be able to, in a few weeks' time or a few podcasts' time, be able to have a really good read on what we're seeing in high elo meta going into Worlds, and maybe have a bit more of a understanding on which teams are going to like favor from that.
Yeah, and you do see that as much like hate as the NA teams get when Blabber kind of just like smurfs it in, you know, EU West Masters and Grandmasters. You're like, oh, he is a pretty good player. Like,
yeah.
Like when Fudge is going like 12 and, you know, 1 in lane against some like pretty, you know, top quality solo queue players. Yeah, you know that he's a good player.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, let's get into Seagull's fun time.
It's Seagull's fun time.
Okay, so this week, guys, we're going to be playing, of course, League of Legends edition of Two Truths and a Lie. So I'm going to tell you some stuff about the game. I've got 4 to do in total. And then, you guys have to pick out which one's the one that I've just made up. All right.
Keen.
So the first one, it's sort of Easter egg themed, I suppose. So first one, Nami casting Tidal Wave on an Infernal Drake plays a steam hissing game sound. Number 2, if two Dravens are dueling, they can catch each other's axes. Or number 3, when more than one ninja champion is in the same team, they lose 1 health.
What? All of these sound crazy, and 2 of them are true?
2 of them are true, yeah.
Why would you lose 1 health if you're a ninja? Maybe it's like the TFT
Maybe
thing,
I made it up. Maybe you should ask Riot. I don't know.
All right, I'm saying that one's made up as well.
Okay, I'm going to go for something different. I'm going to go for the Draven one.
So Stella thinks the Draven one's made up. Yeah, 2 guys think the ninja one's made up?
I was going to
Yeah.
change to the Draven one as well, actually.
Wouldn't have mattered because I made up the Nami one.
Oh, what? You can catch someone else's axes in a
Yeah,
1v1?
Yeah, I
Yeah,
guess
I
it's
thought
never
that
going to
was-
happen in like competitive play, right? Because
No.
you can't have the same
It
champion.
used to. It used to back in the day.
True,
The
best of
game
fives.
5 used to be a
Yeah.
blind pick, right? They should bring that
That's
back. That would be
crazy.
so cool.
Yeah.
All right, no, that was a wicked start. This is a fun
All
game.
right.
So,
Well,
so also let's go back to ninjas.
that's a point to me, by the way.
Why?
The ninjas-
Why do you lose 1 health? I don't want to lose a
So
health.
It's an
Ninjas,
it's an
ninjas
Easter
are
egg in the
best when they're
game.
on their own.
To 1
So-
health, very unlikely to make a difference.
And who counts as ninjas? Like,
I'm guessing like the same as like the TFT sets, like Akali, Zed, Kennen, Shen.
That's actually crazy though that it's the spaghetti code does that.
I haven't fact checked these, but like I looked them up on a site that like had no reason to lie. So
yeah.
if anyone doesn't believe me or can prove it wrong, chuck it in the comments. Yeah.
yeah.
All right, here we go. Number 2. So, if Jinx or Vi perform their special taunt on Caitlyn, she'll get a debuff called Agitated. Number 2. When Sion kills Zyra and vice versa, they get 2 bonus gold. Or number 3. Morgana binding a Kayle who has Divine Judgment active, which is Kale's ult, prompts the unique voice line, "Not this time, sister."
See, I would
I
say
loved it.
that last one is true because of the lore, but also Henry knows enough of the lore to
Try and
make
trick
that
us a bit.
Mm.
I mean, to correct you, I'm terrible at the lore, but I did have access to the internet when I made these up. So, like,
Yeah.
it doesn't apply anyway.
What was the first one again? Sorry.
If Jinx or Vi perform their special taunt on Caitlyn, she'll get the debuff Agitated.
What
What are their
does
taunts?
the debuff agitated mean? Or is it just nothing? It's just a...
I think it's just a little icon that appears that says Agitated. I don't think it
Alright,
affects
I'm
anything.
going to go the Zyra and Sion one being the bullshit one.
All right.
I'm going to go with the agitated one.
All right.
I'm gonna go with the Kayle and Morgana.
Oh, then I can't win.
Okay, true,
Alright.
true. I'm gonna go. No, I was just doing that
That's
to
your first.
be
If that's your first
annoying.
answer, that's
no,
fine.
it wasn't. I think the first one, the agitated, is what you
Well,
made.
now I feel bad that I bullied you off because it was the Kayle Morgana one that was made up.
Don't
2 from 2,
trust
baby.
him, Ryan.
The game master. He's
See, no,
Dance,
but I
my
got it.
puppets.
See, I knew that was the simplest one that Riot could have done, but also that Henry could have
Okay.
made up.
Hmm.
Now here comes the real thing. Is Henry going to keep on that theme of like,
Yeah.
or does he really throw a curveball in?
Okay, so number 3 for 2 truths and a lie. So I've got the first fact. Poppy W can stop a Rift Herald charge. Number 2, Leona does 1 less damage with her sunlight to champions with sunglasses. Or number 3, if you leave in an ARAM, if you're playing Lysandra, if you leave the victory screen open for long enough, Lysandra gives a secret monologue.
Fuck off.
Oh, I really hope that monologue one.
Oh
is
my
true.
god, yeah. So like the Poppy one seems bullshit, but I bet it's so simple if you're at like obviously if you play Poppy you'd know that.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
have no
but-
idea about Poppy's W anyway.
The
I think
I
it's-
want the
I think it's the
sunglasses one to be
sunglasses.
real.
No,
I'm gonna say
the-
sunglasses.
like-
Yeah.
I'm gonna say Poppy can't stop the Rift Herald, and this is probably
Yeah, but
Yeah,
Bard,
got me in
why
the
not? Bard's ult just stops it. Like seems
Yeah, I
like
don't
a
know.
decent.
You can CC the Rift Herald.
Yeah.
oh well, yeah, okay. Or is this
Henry's
Seagull bullying me off again?
One
Okay, no, I'm sticking
I'll
with
give you a
it.
hint.
I'll just
I'll
I'll
give you a
stick
hint.
with it.
Give the
It's all
Poppy.
good. I'm going.
One of
Poppy
these
one.
is like a loading screen tip. I'm pretty sure.
Mm.
I
Anyway,
think that
what have we looked in?
sunglasses
Stella's
is
got
bullshit.
sunglasses.
Yeah, I'm
Ryan's
going
got sunglasses.
Yeah.
Jared's
so the only
got
way
Poppy
you
charge.
win is if there's not a monologue with Lysandra.
So you going Poppy, Jared?
Yeah.
You are correct, Jared.
Let's go.
Well, look, I'm assuming you can't. I haven't actually. Again, I haven't fact checked, but I made that up because it would be bullshit, right? But the other two are true.
Right now.
The other surely not. That would be broken because at least it's Bard's
live
ultimate.
fact checking during the podcast. I love this.
No, I can't see anything either.
Nah, cool. All right, last one. Last one.
Let's go.
Last one. So no one can win except for Henry.
Come on, let's go. All right. So, we've got I'll chuck in an actual sort of pro play one here that you guys might have a chance. So 16 CS per minute has been achieved in a pro game. It's the first one. Second one is Kassadin is Kaiser's father. And the third one is there is a skin line dedicated to internet browsers.
What? Dedicated to internet browsers?
2 of them are true.
What? Like Chrome and Firefox and stuff like that.
I remember reading Kaiser's Law, like maybe 6 months. Well, no, it must have been Last Worlds.
Do you remember
when they
there
did
being
all
a Daddy
the
Kassadin?
KDA stuff? I can't remember anything about Kassadin. I think they're connected because of the you know how like Kaiser's like affected by the void thingy. Yeah. And I think Kassadin's connected somehow, but I don't think they're like blood related.
Makes sense.
So I think that one's not true.
I'm happy to die on Stella's 12-month-old knowledge.
I don't think 12 CS per minute has happened in a pro game.
16 was the fact.
So 16, sorry. Yeah, 12 would be possible. 16.
No, back when they used to do... back
free.
when they did like the funneling strat with like...
I
reckon
did.
it would have been done.
So I'll tell you something. I won't give it away, but the champion that got the highest CS per minute recorded in a pro game was Siva.
Yeah, I'd believe 16. I reckon they'd be like funneling like 2 lanes into a... like it might be fake. It might be fake, but
I think like 15 and a half, and Seagull's just like changed it to 16, which is not true. I'm gonna stick with it's not true that someone got 16 CS.
All right, and we're going.
Let's go. Let's find out.
Ryan is correct. And dude, get out of my fucking head. It was actually 15 and a half, and I changed it up. So
Damn it.
There was
if only I had stuck to my Morgana and Kale.
15 and a half is epic in itself.
By Teddy,
wow.
you got 1,465 CS at 15.5 CS per minute. It was like a triple inhib down game.
Like a 70-minute game or something.
It must have been,
something like that.
My point still stands that there are some freaks who play this game.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
But the skin line for internet browsers, there's Explorer Ezreal, Foxfire Ari, Chrome Rammus, and Safari Caitlyn.
I did not know that.
Love
Yeah.
Makes sense. I know all those skins, but I didn't. They just seemed like normal
just
skins.
random. Yeah.
Oh, thanks for playing, guys.
Nice. That was an excellent round.
Very good.
Thank you. Again, any suggestions? Chuck them down. All right, should we take it through?
Did we even talk about who won though? I feel like we
It's
just skipped over
it's
who
not
won.
always a contest,
Yes, it is.
right?
It's literally Seagull's fun time, not Seagull's super sweaty competitive time.
Right, this is why Ryan never became a teacher. Because
Guys, let's all
Someone had to be a
compare our
winner.
test scores. Yeah. well, hang on. So there were, I got 2 right that no one guessed it.
Yeah. You won.
And then, cool. Let's settle that. All right, deep dive.
it's time to
Deep dive.
All right,
Yeah.
so we're going to be looking at some exciting topic this week. So we've got some futures stuff, and for those who don't know what futures is in sport or esports, is the ability to bet on someone winning a future title. And in this case, we're looking at the World Championships and who we think is going to take the number 1 spot and the trophy home. So super exciting. We've just to run it through while Seagull's dealing with his unfortunate crying child. we've got pretty much on every site, we've got FPX as the number one favorite to win it all, which it's been our sort of our pick of the year ever since Nuggery signed for them earlier on in 2021. Nuggery's come from an exceptional squad of Darm One Gaming, who are also in most books the second or the third placed seed, or the odds sitting at around the $5 or $6 mark. So yeah, even with the departure of Nuggery, Darm One's still looking to be one of the top 2, top 3 teams in the world. But yeah, FPX and Darm One, as you'd expect, right at the top. And then after that, we've got some other pretty big names. We've got EDG, Edward Gaming, Royal Never Give Up, T1, Mad, and Fnatic. And then some pretty juicy sort of dark horse odds. I mean, there's always, you can never count out any of the LCK or the LPL squads, even if they haven't performed that well during the season. It might just fit them for a meta. And we've got Genji and LNG sitting around that $20 mark. So yeah, I guess we want to sort of hash out which ones we think are good picks, or I guess what teams we think are sitting really pretty at those higher end prices, and yeah, talk through a few strategies that we're going to employ going into Worlds and this futures stuff.
Yeah, so I guess with the futures, like you were just saying, yeah, employ a couple of strategies. Like just generally when you look at futures markets, what is the main strategy with that?
Yeah, so Ryan and I were talking a lot about it, and our main strategy is to look at the teams that are paying really big bucks but have a really high percentage of making it out of groups. And then once they do that, we look to start hedging, or we look to cash out that bet once the odds sort of increase a lot more for it. Of course, you can run the bet the whole way through, but when we're looking at maybe the teams along the lines of Mad Lions or Fnatic or even LNG, like we're probably not putting them down as World's winners, but they're a pretty solid team that should get out of groups, make it to quarterfinals, and then boost the odds so that we're able to cash out and make some money.
Yeah, we're looking for those teams that probably, like, there's no value in going on Darm 1 and FPX, right? Because everyone thinks they're going to win, so the bookies also agree with that. So there's no point going this early on $3 odds. It's just, just doesn't make sense.
You'd literally be better off betting them to just win the series the whole way through, like to win every game of Worlds. You'd get better than $3 combined odds.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, for them to win all their games in groups to even qualify for the finals, yeah, you'd get better odds. But when we talk about teams, because also another thing we haven't talked about is we haven't seen any of these teams compared to each other. So of course we have a decent idea of how they're going to play against. But with such a big meta change, with traveling, with finals, worlds, pressure, performance, $3 odds isn't good for a team like FPX when all it takes is for someone to get COVID. All it takes is for something that is unpredictable to happen and they're out of it because of how close the competition is. But when it comes to a team like Fnatic or PSG or Mad, teams that are decent, probably not going to win Worlds, all it takes is for a few things to line up for them, for the stars to align, and boom, you see them in the top 4. And now their odds to win are $6 instead of $25. And that's when you can start hedging, start cashing out. And that's where the value is, right?
Exactly. And realistically, if you're looking at the teams like Mad Lions, who are paying $15, LNG paying $21, and then PSG paying $26. They're probably the ones that really stick out in my mind for different reasons. Like Mad is a first seed team in the group stage, and similar to PSG, they're also a first seed. So it means that they're going to get, hopefully and theoretically, a pretty easy group. Now, we've obviously earlier on in the podcast talked about how difficult some of these groups are going to be, but you're putting a $26 bet or a $15 bet on these two teams to essentially make it out of groups, right? to get a second place spot. And it's whether you think that they're likely to come second or third in their group, which is likely for both of those teams. And as soon as you get out into that quarterfinal, those $26 odds for PSG suddenly will drop to $12 or $13. And then you're getting so much value out of it. So you only really need one out of Mad or PSG to actually get through from the groups, and you'd be looking like you'd be making money on a hedge or a cash out from that one. I did quickly mention the LNG one, the pick as well, and now that's another one that really sticks out in my mind, and their odds are quite high because they've got to come through the play-in stage. But two teams get out of play-ins from each sort of side, so it does mean that LNG, realistically, all they're competing against is Harnwell Life Esports from LCK, who've just, like, God knows how they've gotten to Worlds with some of the players that they've got on their team. They're nowhere near the level of what LNG I think will be. And then you've got to beat C9, who, like, they're an LCS side and you're an LPL side, so, like, come on. And then, like, you've got Beyond Gaming, who really, like, for an LPL side like LNG, just shouldn't even be on the radar. So, obviously, traditionally, sometimes a Chinese side seems to shit the bed early on at Worlds, but I don't think that that's going to be LNG. I think that they're going to have a very easy run through play-ins, and then that $21 sort of range is going to be like the best value you've seen.
Yeah, and of course, just with any gambling thing, there's always going to be some variables that we haven't predicted. I mean, you just look at MSI when we went pretty hard on C9 and they just like couldn't come through. There's a chance that sort of happens. But on the other side, if you had gone hard on PSG, I mean, they just played out of their minds. And so, if you're looking at there's teams like PSG and Mad who no one really rates, and LNG who are probably going to have a pretty easy time up until groups and even potentially could get out of groups.
Yeah.
Then that value,
I mean,
it's pretty good there.
LNG is one of those sides, man, that I would honestly put down as a dark horse to win Worlds. Someone like Tarzan, who's just come fresh off of getting MVP in almost every single map they played at finals. He just, if the meta suits if it's a jungle meta and like something like that happens, LNG is all of a sudden like all they have to do is win 3 games against anyone in the world, and they're a top side. They can do that. They definitely wouldn't be my favorite, but yeah, I think that they're a side that could do it.
We've talked a lot with Coach Curtis, and we see it all the time where no one's figured out the meta in those first few weeks. So, but is a meta change going to mean a team like LNG doesn't beat a team like C9? Probably not. It's not going to really matter in those first groups. But then as we progress, we get into those final games. If, Mad have come through, but you can just see that the meta's not suiting them, you can be like, nah, hedge or cash out. But if the meta's like, yeah, man, like Mad really have a good chance, and that $15 bet's like looking really good if like once you see how the games are going. So yeah, really interesting there.
Well, I guess harking back to a couple of podcasts ago when we were talking about the wife buff, is betting on Fnatic a good strategy at this stage? Like I know the wife buff's a bit of a meme, but like, do you think that there's value in Fnatic?
I think we look at like the futures betting like we would with any other betting market, and it's about picking the teams that are currently way out of whack with the value. So a team like Fnatic probably applies so much to Ryan's last point then about certain teams just fitting the meta right and betting on them then. And I don't see Fnatic's odds changing up until probably a day before the tournament starts. And so we'll probably have a better idea of like what people like Whippo are playing in the jungle, and whether Adam is Darius is he being buffed enough that he's going to pop off at Worlds, and Fnatic's just all the stars are aligning, then yeah, jump on them. $19 is great. But right now I'd be saying it's a little bit risky for them, and there's probably just those 3 or 4 other teams that right now are out of value.
Yeah, because we're looking at those teams that have a good chance of getting out of groups to change their value, and Fnatic, although they could, the odds are probably pretty correct for them getting out of groups.
Yeah. I think the Fnatic bet would just be a bit of a fun one, and if everything goes right, you probably hedge on them in the grand final because they're losing shit.
Yeah, so talk us through, I guess, hedging in a little bit more detail. So you mentioned that you look at placing a bet on for the futures, and then once you're out of the group stage, then you look at cashing out or hedging. So yeah, what is hedging in a little bit more detail, and maybe give us some examples of what you might do.
Yeah, so I guess hedging and cashing out is essentially the same sort of thing. It's about betting on the other side of the bet to guarantee some money. So you normally can't do that pre-game because even if a book had 2 teams very evenly rated at 50-50, they would give you $1.90 or so for both. And if you bet $1 on both sides, you would come out losing money no matter who won. But if we can try and predict future things from happening and future market swings, such as PSG being the first seed likely to get out of groups despite them being $20+, then as soon as they get out of groups, those odds drop significantly because the bookmakers are giving them a higher chance of winning Worlds. So at that point, we can either go, all right, do we let our bet ride because do we think that PSG has a good chance of winning Worlds? Well, we can judge that after a few more games, but most times our general thoughts are right. Like a team like PSG just isn't going to win Worlds. So we look to hedge our bet by betting whoever's playing against them each step of the way as they go up towards the finals. And God forbid, if they do win every single game, our hedging bets lose 3 in a row, but that doesn't matter because we're hitting that $26 odds to for PSG to win. But yeah, bit of a safer way of sort of locking in some cash.
You might have seen something like that if you do parlays where the first leg wins, and then now, on some sites you can say cash out, or people say, I'm going to hedge now, where usually we only make parlays that we think all the legs are good value, so we would never cash out because we think the next leg is going to win too. But if we're kind of thinking, well, first leg is going to win, and that's getting out of groups, and second leg is winning Worlds, which is probably not going to happen, so we cash out. And you might have seen that after your first leg wins on your parlay, the cash out value is more than what your initial bet was,
for sure,
just slightly. So you might make a few dollars there, or a small percent, but you're still making money.
So I guess to wrap up our sort of futures bets, for now, we're not going to be touching those sort of top 4, top 5 teams. We're going to be looking more at seeing how the meta goes for MAD. I'm pretty keen on chucking some money on LNG and PSG right now because I think LNG would be my sure thing to get out of play-ins. And then I think PSG, given a first seed spot and their performance at MSI and $26 odds, I mean, that seems like a no-brainer that they're a big dark horse that we can chuck a bit on. Would you be saying any others, Ryan, or do you agree with those two?
Yeah, I think MAD's value is not quite good enough before seeing how this new patch is going to go. They're pretty patch reliant with Armor and El Yoya, so there's no point. I don't think the value is going to change in the next few weeks, and there's still some more information we can look at watching solo queue and seeing how things progress. So that's probably not going to change, so there's no point going on it heavy now.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to chatting in probably a few weeks' time on our podcast about the meta changes and which teams it's sort of suiting. But yeah, I think that's all we have time for. We've gone a little bit over time, but it's been an exciting chat about how Worlds is all stacking up. I know it's been a couple of weeks of no games, so we're desperate to just chat about it. But yeah, we do want to give a bit of a plug if you're interested in hearing more next week about women in esports. We've got a few special guests. We're going to be chatting everything from about stigma in esports all the way through to why we don't see many professional gamers in the top, or professional women gamers in the top leagues, but we do see them a lot more on Twitch and streaming and everywhere else in the gaming world. We've got a few ideas to what we think it is, but if you do want to chat and maybe give us your point of view before we get into it next week, drop a comment, chat to us on Discord, wherever you sort of see us. And yeah, thanks so much for listening this week. Don't forget to subscribe. So
yeah, and just like every week, come join us on the Discord. Even though there's no games, we've still got some Valorant betting going and some CSGO finals, I think, in full swing. So still come join us there. And have a chat to us about some of the solo queue games that are going on. I know some of the big streamers are getting heavy into that, so there's still plenty to do and see on the Discord and on the socials.
Yeah, and before we go, we do want to acknowledge that this podcast is recorded on the lands of the Kaurna people, the traditional custodians of the lands on which we live, learn, and game. These lands were stolen and never ceded. The podcast was written by all of us, produced by Sick Dog over here, and mixed and edited by Seagull when he's in between doing daddy duties. But yeah, from all of us here at League of Bets, GG, easy.
Thanks, guys.